Hello fellow nerds and welcome to my channel. I'm Jessica and in today's video we are going to talk about the 3 pillars and how to use them. For those of you who don't know about the 3 pillars, they are a term to describe the 3 different aspects of roleplay. They are the essentials of the game. So let's jump right into the first pillar. Even though that sounds painful, jumping into a pillar. I digress. But you should hang on to the end for a bonus tip. Alright, let's get going. The first pillar is probably the most used one, and that is combat. Combat can be against monsters, which is the most common, but the environment can also be a combat. An environmental encounter is where the characters have to overcome some kind of environmental obstacle. For instance, my party had to cross a switchback mountain. It was only about 15 feet wide, and the wind gusts they were deadly. On both sides there were 100 feet straight drop into jagged cliffs. They had to figure out a way to cross this switchback, without getting blown off the sides, that is. It could also be a raging river that needs to be crossed, or maybe find a way to survive the deadly cold nights in the deserts. The second pillar is exploration. That can be investigating a room, finding secret notes, discovering a dungeon, triggering traps and finding magical items. So the party is looking for the crime lord and has found his mansion. They break into the mansion, but apart from a couple of guard dogs, it is empty. The party quickly dispose of the guard dogs, and they start searching the mansion for clues as to his whereabouts. They find a hidden safe underneath the floorboards and a secret basement, which contains the bodies of his enemies. They might also find a live prisoner. And all of a sudden, we have the third pillar. The third pillar is social interaction. That is the players acting out the characters, ordering food and lodging at the local inn, talking with the highway robbers before the combat begins, or getting the quest from the mayor, whose daughter has been kidnapped by goblins and dragged off to a nearby cave. Cliché, I know. Almost as cliché as meeting up at the tavern. But who cares? So this pillar is everywhere where there is conversations, either in between the PCs or between the PCs and NPCs. But you can also have a sort of social combat. Like for instance, if the characters try to bribe their way into the royal wedding. Or maybe they want to threaten a prisoner into giving up the secret hideout, the highway robbers and their leader. In most systems, 3 pillars are also supported directly by the rules. For exploration, it would be skills like investigation, perception. For social interaction, it would be skills like deception, intimidation, and persuasion. At least if we talk Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And well, combat has its own rules. If you find this video has been of any help so far, then please click the like button down here to help spread this video to more aspiring dungeon masters. So what is the 3 pillars for? They are guidelines to help us as dungeon masters to create a good and diverse game which feels rich and engaging. Many of you probably don't even think about the 3 pillars and have simply created them unconsciously, or maybe they come natural to you as part of writing an adventure. For me, they always just seem to come naturally. So how do you use the 3 pillars? Well, you use them to balance the game between them. So if you have had a lot of combat and you feel like a break from fighting skeletons and orcs and dragons and skeleton orcs and you don't feel like fighting skeleton dragons, then you could think about the 3 pillars and maybe instead of fighting the aforementioned skeleton dragon, that the very same skeleton dragon wants to hire the characters for a job. Maybe the skeleton dragon used to be a female gold dragon called Belsa, who wants the characters to go to an ancient tomb and retrieve her dragon egg. Was that another cliché? The part about the ancient tomb. Well, I don't care. I like cliches. Or actually, I hate cliches. But for the sake of examples, they're easy to work with. So maybe this ancient tomb belonged to an ancient and very rich king called King Salazar. He stole Belsa's egg hundreds of years ago, and Belsa has devoted her life to get her egg back. King Salazar wanted to protect his wealth, even in death. So he wanted his final resting place to be safe from grave robbers. But instead of being full of undead, it was full of traps to stop intruders. Maybe at the entrance to this ancient tomb, they meet a friendly ghost who tries to warn them. Turn around, or you shall walk into your impending doom. Inside this tomb of impending doom, they will hear the screams of a group of grave robbers who tried to raid the tomb of impending doom, but died a gruesome and painful death. Maybe the entrance to the tomb of impending doom is a stone door created by a level 435 wizard, which can only be unlocked if the party can solve the puzzle. All of a sudden, you have a nice break from combat, which can easily last a couple of hours. At least, that is how I use the 3 pillars. Now, how do you use the 3 pillars? Let me know that down in the comments below. So I promise you a bonus tip. A chair can have 3 legs and still stand, but we all know that a 4-legged chair is much more stable. So this is what I call the 4th pillar. Puzzles and riddles. Where you can go a bit off game and out of character and get a break. Every group has some sort of off game talk, also known as out of character or OOC. A puzzle or a riddle is a great way to take a break from the game but not completely stop it. I will make a video about puzzles and how to implement them into your game, so keep an eye out for that video. Now before you all go, but Jessica, puzzles are just a part of exploration. And while that might be true to some degree, and I have a reason for why I believe it to be a pillar on its own. The reason I call puzzles the 4th pillar is that it is not a necessity to use them in order to run a good game. And there are very strong opinions about the use of puzzles. You see, the way I use them is I don't allow a die roll to solve the puzzle. I want the players to use their off-game knowledge and their off-game wits to solve it. If they find themselves completely stuck, then a die roll might give off a hint, or they might have to find another way to get past whatever the puzzle would have led to. But the big difference, at least in my games, is that the first 3 pillars can all be solved using dice rolls, whereas the 4th pillar can't. A die roll can at most give off a hint, which is why, if you want to use puzzles as I do, you shouldn't place a key part of the plot behind a puzzle. You don't want your game to come to a stop because your party can't solve your puzzle, or you feel like you have to give away the answer. It should only be used where the game as a whole won't suffer if the players can't solve it. But if you're wondering whether or not you should introduce puzzles into your game, then remember this. Not all groups like them. Some players hate puzzles. But remember, some players hate social interaction too. Some players hate combat. There should be something for everyone. If this video was of any help, please subscribe to the channel for more tips on how to improve as a DM. Thank you for watching, and keep on nerding.